pictures that they traveled and a lot. They were very outgoing before. So they were very active until the illness.
And the eldest son, Richard, took care of both his mother and brother.
A lot of people say, why was he 49 and living at home? Because he was taking care of his mother. And he knew he was going to have to take care of John all his life.
The biggest question on Fay Haas's mind was why Aunt Bonnie's third son, Donald Wayne Hartung, who also lived in Pensacola, had not called.
And I said, Wayne hasn't called us. Why hasn't he called us or tried to get in touch with any of us over here?
That was because Donald Wayne Hartung was at the police station.
Let's start by getting your name and information. What's your first name?
Donald.
What's your middle name, Donald?
Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E. Hartung, H-A-R-T-U-N-G.
The first interview I did with Donald, I was trying to just get a overall picture of the family and what was going on, the family dynamics.
Donald Hartung was 59 years old and worked as a security guard at a local hospital. He told Detective Matt Intinger he had a good relationship with his mother and with stepbrothers John and Richard Smith.
You have good relationships with them? Or?
We have a great relationship.
Hartung said he had last been at the house 3 days earlier when he went there to cook dinner, as he does every Tuesday. He had not yet been told how his family died.
Your folks, your family over there was killed?
Killed. They said they were deceased, and they never told me how they were killed.
They're dead. It looks like they were killed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How were they killed?
It looked like they were shot.
Shot.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Well, it looked like they were shot. It's hard to tell because there was a lot of clothes on top of it.
Clothes on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Come on, trying to get to the good stuff.
I killed my boyfriend in self-defense.
This about to be a good one, so. Ooh. She killing people in self-defense.
How could we not? There was no doubt about who pulled the trigger. This wasn't what we done. And I grabbed the gun and I shot him. The question
And I grabbed the gun and I shot him.
was the why.
I said, take these bullets. She
Very bizarre. Nothing like I've ever heard before.
Miss Huber's psychological condition was seriously abnormal.
And then you closed up when you were with Miss Hubers. Did you see tears?
No, ma'am.
This case was about two people
no tears. Oh, she's getting blocked. Oh, she got that.
Put pressure on me to orgasm.
I thought that she was clean. I thought she was a girlfriend that couldn't let go.
He had a new love interest. That's
Take it up.
She was just very, very upset.
Yeah, dog.
There were only two ways he was leaving his
She said she was going to clap him with the actor. Ooh, she was going to clap me. Ooh, she's going to clap me. Why you happy about somebody dying? Strangled ankle, I don't know. Death eludes.
The first place to put a body. That's it. The only thing they could do was kill him.
What's up? Something number
The
15.
jury to find the defendant.
She gonna do? She gonna run the ball? What she gonna do? She gonna run in? I'm getting boards. Dang, she made that. Okay, her life was special. Woo. Check it out. Yeah.
Brian was the most laid back, easy guy you ever meet. He was a very good lawyer. Carry himself like a professional. It was always important to Ryan to carry yourself.
Looks mattered to Ryan Poston, a young Cincinnati lawyer.
I got boards. I'm running down. I'm running down.
To look like a lawyer. He thought that it was important
and looks married to his new girlfriend, Shayna Hubers, a college student across the river in Kentucky.
Shayna Hubers is a very talented woman. She got through school in 3 years. She had a scholarship in music. She had a lot going
easy on the eyes.
He added her as a Facebook friend after he saw some photos from her first pregnant. Shayna's a very pretty girl.
She ain't got that big of titties, but she ain't ugly.
He saw something that he liked looking at, I guess. For Shayna, this relationship is heavy.
Come on,
Having
man.
Ryan on her arm sure looked good. Telling people that she was dating this 29-year-old attorney who had his own firm in Cincinnati sure sounded good.
They dated on and off for more than 18 months, leaving a trail of text messages that documented a very rocky, on-again, off-again, obsessive relationship, replete with jealousy,
I think I know now. Come on, Shorty, you want some scandalous stuff.
And rage.
I hate him.
A relationship that would end with Ryan Poston dead on his apartment floor.
Come on.
And Shayna Hubert on trial for murder.
I grabbed the gun and I shot him.
In the days leading up to his murder, Ryan was pulling.
Damn, girl. Like, you don't see me.
I thought that she was clingy. I thought she was a girlfriend that couldn't let go. He didn't want to hurt her feelings. He wanted her nicely to go away.
She communicated to her friends that she was losing.
That's how you play defense, yo. That's how you play some defense. I told her, like, yo.
Where Shayna Hubers would show up in his apartment, somehow get in, and be laying naked on the couch.
Oh, she want to drive on me? You want to drive? Drive.
And Brian
this
just
block, too.
wasn't that into her.
Bang.
She tried everything she could from a sexual perspective to get that interest. It just wasn't working. He had finally found the strength to say he was done.
No, that's you gotta tell these girls sometimes. Look, stop being a simp.
And he had a new love interest.
I'm gonna get me some cookies.
That's what sent her over the edge.
A former Miss Ohio, Audrey Bolton. Ohio. On the night he would die, Ryan and Audrey were supposed to go on their first date.
I think Shayna Hubers would have been upset if Ryan Poston was dating anybody else. But when you throw into the mix the fact that this was a beauty queen, I think that really sent her off. She had downloaded a picture of Audrey when she became Miss Ohio, downloaded that onto her computer just hours before Ryan was shot and killed.
It all came to a head just after 8 o'clock on a Friday night at Ryan Poston's apartment in the Cincinnati suburb of Highland Heights, Kentucky.
Good deed, though.
I killed my boyfriend in self-defense.
I killed my boyfriend in self-defense. When you start off the conversation like that, it's like, you sound sketchy as hell. I just killed my girlfriend in self-defense. Trust me, it was self-defense. She wouldn't give me no cake, so I had to, like, you know, make sure that mix was done, stirred up. No, she did.
After she called her mother, she made the statement that she waited 15 minutes to call her. Don't know what would have happened if she stopped right there and called 911. You know, still had a chance.
Yeah, y'all letting them drive on this, yo.
What happened exactly? What happened?
Y'all gotta start moving around. Who got that block? Your block, Asia. Take Asia. Miss Wilson. Miss Asia Wilson. She's 5'8". 5'8", small as shit. She keep on indicating I killed him. I made sure I murdered him.
The call ended with this astounding admission from Shayna Hubers. Hubers was not done yet. What would happen in this interview would either clinch her guilt or prove she acted out of self-defense or was so emotionally disturbed that she could not be convicted of murder.
She sound a little crazy.
Your name is Shayna? Everybody for me.
Number 3.
And you say you can't share the court of law.
After giving on Miranda, she said that she wanted an attorney, and I pretty much quit asking her questions. She started talking.
And having me really angry that I could have had.
Right.
And I
Come on, move around.
Done stuff before that, I put my head on my headboard and could die.
She didn't like to be in there by herself. She wanted someone there the whole time to hear her side of the story, hear her.
It's really something. We had to get into it. We were going to fight and it's just,
Good foul.
you know, if I could go back and go over it, then I would rather have my head beating.
This gets in the basket.
We were obviously ready to listen and wanted both sides of it. At this point, did we have enough information that there had been a past of any type of abuse? That night we didn't know.
He took his arm across the table and put it in my face and screaming at me at the top of his lungs after he had thrown me around the room. And was saying
She didn't make that, did she?
emotionally to me,
Not only did she make it, I got the foul too. If anything, I took an elbow to the face.
I hate your fucking Eastern Kentucky accent. I hate
Nah, that's some bull. You see that? That's some bull. But you know what? We pull up
At
on
one point,
those.
she said he picked her up and threw her across the room.
He was running me around the room.
And then he drug her out and threw her out the door. You know, there's going to be some red marking, some kind of bruising, something that would indicate there was some struggle. There was nothing like that in this case.
And her account of the struggle in the apartment did not match the crime scene photos.
Nothing was disturbed on the table. The bookcase had bullets standing on it, but pipes, smoking pipes there around, books. Nothing in that table.
He was like this.
And then Shayna began to recount her version of Ryan's final moments.
Literally.
Sprinkle dinkle, baby. Sprinkle dinkle.
I was in a back room
Make it.
with Chief Birkenauer listening
Make it at the line
to
now.
the
Make it at the line.
that she said.
Sprinkle dinkle,
And I
baby.
continued to
Sprinkle
find
dinkle.
myself-
Make it at the line. Yeah.
Shocked by the
Stick to
harshness
defense. Come
of
on.
her words, kind of a flippant nature.
What you doing? What you doing? Hey, what you doing?
What
What you doing? Hey, but hey, I said what you doing? Oh, good. Little girl. What you thought this was?
Did you know that I had done that? That I was walked around the table and shot him where I did. He was not immediately.
Bill and I turned to each other and said, did we really just hear that? Did she really just say that? Over the years, I've seen people who have been in shock. I've never had anybody tell me that someone pirouettes when they're in shock. That someone sings when they're in shock. That somebody snaps their fingers and says, I did it, when they're in shock.
I did. Yes, I did.
She was desperate to tell her story, to have people hear her side. She wanted to get that all out there. And I really think in her mind, Shayna thought that everybody would just buy it. That none of us were smart enough to see beyond the facade.
For prosecutor Michelle Snodgrass, it seemed like a slam-dunk case of murder. And at first, that's just what happened.
A slam dunk case of murder, niggas. She was like, bang, bang. You get a show. 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 You get one.
Less than a year later, a crushing blow.
Well, it was discovered that there was
You get a show. You get a show. You get a show.
that sat on our first jury who had previously been convicted of a felony offense. Under the law in Kentucky, if you have a prior felony conviction, you are excluded from serving on a jury.
Shayna Huber's conviction was overturned. The judge ordered a new trial.
It was disappointment on our part. But the real struggle for us was the pain for Ryan's family. That closure was torn away from them. That peace of mind was torn away from them. And that they were going to have to undo whatever healing they'd done and live it all again.
At the Kentucky jail, where she had begun serving her 40-year sentence, Shayna Hubers was jubilant. Now she had a new chance to tell her story. A new chance for freedom.
This was her last chance. We had no idea what direction the defense was going to go. We had no idea what she might take the stand and say. We knew all bets were off.
The second foul. She wasn't even going to take that joint up on this stuff. She got to earn that. Yeah. So what's up, big girl?
There's a big river separating northern Kentucky from Cincinnati.
You will find on juries here, as opposed to possibly over the river in a bigger city, that people believe in more traditional values. People expect people to conduct themselves instead of doing.
I expect you to conduct yourself like a lady with big titties.
But there would be nothing traditional in this trial.
Oh, juicy boobies. Her boobies are juicy.
Please be seated.
Including graphic testimony about the couple's sex life.
Okay, at this time, the court calls upon the Commonwealth to commence opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Ryan Poston was alive for each of the 6 shots
that
Shayna Hubers pumped into his body. He was alive when she shot him here, 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 and here. And he was alone, except for the woman standing over him, gun in hand. There's Barker.
Shayna's young, she's attractive, she's articulate, she's well dressed. The jury walks in and they see this girl, and they might not think, looking at her, that she's capable of something like this. And that's why it was so crucial to give them the picture of who she really is.
You're going to come to see that she is jealous, and she is calculated, and most of all, ladies and gentlemen, she is manipulative. Someone who would go to the ends of the earth to get her way. Because of her love, what Shayna wants, Shayna gets. And what she wanted more than anything in 2012 was Ryan Poston. There were only 2 ways he was leaving his condo that night. Either as Shayna's boyfriend or in a
No, it's not me.
For the new trial, Shayna's family hired a new lawyer.
You know what?
David Eldridge of Knoxville, Tennessee, with a new strategy that did not rely on self-defense, but instead on her state of mind that night.
Our approach was to focus more on the extreme emotional disturbance. Kentucky's murder statute says if you kill someone, it's kill them, that it's murder unless it's done under extreme emotional disturbance for which there's a reasonable cause.
For Shayna Hubers, a last chance.
Let me see.
If the jury believed her, she could be convicted of manslaughter instead of murder and be out of prison in a few years.
We were running
Run back.
terms like borderline personality, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychological outcomes, and how those
that's what run back means.
And Shayna Huber's defense lawyer painted a much different, darker picture of Ryan Poston than the jury had heard from the prosecution, feeling the stress of his job the night he was killed.
He is in a very dark mood, very upset, Not too long after she arrives, writes into her verbally, critical of everything there is to be critical of her about. Her mother, her family, her education, where she's from, her appearance, vile comments to her. Verbal assault. And you will hear about how he looked. How his eyes were frightened, scared, dark. Burst out the door, physically attacks her. Or slams her arm into the door, physically attacks her. We believe the evidence will show that this accused is not guilty of this assault. That she was privileged to act in self-protection, but she was acting under extreme emotional disturbance.
What the heck?
The prosecution began with the disturbing evidence of the crime scene, Ryan Poston's bloodied undershirt, and testimony from the first officer on the scene, David Forners, who said he saw no evidence of a struggle inside the apartment.
What would you have expected to see if there was a struggle over top of the table?
I would have seen things knocked off the table and knocked over on the table.
Was it?
No, ma'am.
Was anything up?
No, ma'am.
My next question. At any point in time, when you were with Miss Hughes, did you see tears?
No, ma'am.
See.
But for the prosecution, there was no stronger evidence than the video made of Shayna Hubers at the police station that night, played for the jury the very first day. They saw her dancing, her singing, her admissions. Her lawyers tried to put the best face up, saying it supported the theory of emotional disturbance.
I think it's just bizarre behavior brought on by the stress of what she's gone through and her own psychological condition.
Even so,
Didn't want to watch him die.
Any defense lawyer would tell you that they would just as soon their client not have talked.
Come on, Asia.
He was already gone. He was already done.
For 3 hours after the event. No defense lawyer would say that was a good idea.
I had to beg down. I'm not trying to do the fourth foul in the second quarter.
we continue. On day 2, the prosecution called one of Shayna's girlfriends, Dr. Kristen Hoyle,
that was a late pass
dentist
on me.
with whom Shayna exchanged some damning text messages about Ryan.
Ryan's been begging me to ask if you could do his veneers. Please F him up and make him ugly so he'll never get another girl. I hate it.
And what's the next exchange between yourself and Miss Hughes?
When I go to the shooting range with Ryan tonight, I want to turn around, shoot and kill him, and play like it's an accident.
When the prosecution called the former Miss Ohio, Audrey Bolton, to testify, she described the relationship with Ryan as just developing beyond Facebook friends.
Did you ever meet Ryan Poston in person? Yeah. Based on cyber communications, how did you strike him?
Funny and smart.
To be frank, I think that Miss Ohio was called as a slap in the face to show. I think they did it to get under Shayna Huber's skin. I really do.
Mr. Elvin, please proceed with cross-examination.
Shayna Huber's lawyer used the beauty queen's testimony to show how Ryan was two-timing Shayna.
Do you recall that he told you that he had plans to watch the vice presidential debate with his parents?
Yes.
Did he tell you that he was also watching the debate with his girlfriend?
Our position at trial was that he was sending a lot of mixed signals as to what his desires were in terms of the relationship with Shayna Hubers. He had been invited to his parents' home, which he took as a signal that their relationship was going to move forward. And that obviously is not what he had in mind.
And for this second trial, the prosecution had a dramatic new witness, a salesperson at a local mall where Shayna had gone shopping in the hours before she shot Ryan Poston, appearing to be upset.
Did you learn by listening what that individual was upset about?
She found out her boyfriend was seeing somebody else. She was just very, very upset, and she was kind of saying how she was going to kill him multiple times.
He said, please, I was talking over you.
Multiple times.
The prosecution closed its case with testimony from women who had been cellmates in jail with Shayna Hubers and said she admitted making up a story that Ryan had raped and physically abused her.
What did she tell you?
About the rape and abuse, that it did not happen that night.
Nothing further.
Now, Shayna Hubers and her lawyer, David Eldridge, had to make a big decision. Should Shayna take the stand the following morning?
Shayna Hubers wanted to testify, and that's her absolute right to do so.
But if she did,
run fast, the dumbass.
Would be ready with an aggressive cross-examination.
Diana Ross, you want it? Do something.
The defense of Shayna Hubers started strong, with neighbors who lived in Ryan Poston's apartment complex. Helped to back up Shayna's claim that she had been abused months before by Ryan.
That's why I don't
Summer, she came to my door and was crying, and so I let her in, and she had like a red mark on her arm, right in here, maybe about the size of the handprint. And I said, what happened? And she said that she had gotten into an argument with Ryan, and he picked her up and threw her down in the hallway out of his condo. I told her that she needed to call the police.
Central to the defense case was a diagnosis that Shayna Hubers, for all her talents and charm and beauty, suffered from a borderline personality disorder, a diagnosis delivered by psychologist Dr. Thomas Shack.
My opinion is that
so she
shot Mr. Poston in 2012. Ms. Huber's psychological condition was seriously abnormal.
You also learned that the effects of borderline personality disorder are most intense in the early to mid-20s.
You messed up by giving me that open
ring. At a particularly vulnerable time in your life. Okay, the next witness, in order to run that defense.
Time. I call Shayna Hubers.
It was, for all practical purposes, necessary for Ms. Shayna Hubers to testify. After you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the statements and testimony you give at this time will be true?
Ms. Hubers, you nervous?
Yes.
Did you sleep last night?
Not at all. I don't think I was surprised that Shayna testified because we knew that she had to try something different.
And for the defense strategy to work, to prove she shot Ryan Poston 6 times because of an emotional disturbance, she had to testify about the most intimate issues in their troubled relationship. What reporters came to call the orgasm defense.
There were continued issues throughout the relationship about the issue of orgasm.
And how did you respond to that?
I tried to please Ryan to the best of my ability.
How so?
He wanted to try different things, and he ordered different things off the internet to help me achieve orgasm.
It was something we just had to talk about. He obviously knew that would have to be a part of our discussion. It was not something that she relished by any stretch of imagination. It was not something I relished. Talking to a group of strangers about such personal things.
Was there any other thing that Mr. Poston encouraged you to do in relation to your ability to orgasm?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
He wanted me to obtain a G-shot injection inside of my vagina, and I'm sure nobody knows what that is. I didn't know what it was. It's a collagen injection inside of your G-shot, inside of your body,
There is no doubt that they tried to imply that Ryan had been emotionally abusive to Shane. There is no doubt that's where they were going.
He screamed at me, "You're a f***ed up person, and you're a f***ed up person because you were touched when you were a little girl, and that's why you can't orgasm, and that's why I can't love you, and that's why no one will ever be able to love you."
And then her dramatic version of what happened that night at Ryan Poston's apartment. A violent argument over breaking up.
I remember trying to stand up where I was sitting on the floor, and Ryan pushed me back down by my chest. He put his hand on my chest and pushed me back down onto the floor. And I was crying, and I was hysterically crying, and I recall Ryan standing over me and grabbing the gun that was sitting on the table and pointing it at me and saying,
I thought she was
"I could just kill you right now and get away with it. Nobody would even know."
How did you react to that?
She's thinking about it.
I was shocked. I was afraid. I didn't understand what I had done to deserve any of this.
You're lying.
Tell ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened.
He set the gun back down on the table, and he walked around the table, and he was still talking, and he was still saying hurtful things. I don't remember exactly what.
I didn't even know what
And
happened.
he was standing up from the chair, and he was reaching across the table, and I don't know if he was reaching for the gun or reaching for me, but I was still sitting on the floor at this point in time, and I got up off the floor, and I grabbed the gun, and I shot him.
Yes.
Yeah, she could play a part for the jurors, for the judge, for the TV cameras.
And Commonwealth Attorney Michelle Snodgrass was ready for the cross-examination.
We prepped for years for Shane Givers to be cross-examined.
We had spent 7 years. 7 years we had been pouring through this material. Michelle, Cheryl, and I, and Bill Birkenauer knew this case so well that no matter which direction they went, I knew that we would have something to fight.
And it kind of all culminates in that one moment where you actually have the ability to cross-examine the murderer.
Hard for you, isn't it true, ma'am, when things end in a way that you don't want them to?
Sure, that's difficult for me.
Using some of the thousands of text messages between Shayna Hubers and Ryan Poston to challenge the claims that Ryan was the sexual aggressor.
You would read those messages. What was the reason that you gave Mr. Poston for asking him to initiate sex with you?
I said I didn't want to force myself on him.
Anymore? Was that also on there?
Yes.
Yeah, anymore. You didn't want to have to force yourself.
Actually, Judge, typically
Thank you, ma'am.
And another from Ryan to Shayna to show he was not the callous brute she had described.
What did he say? Tell the jury what he said to you.
I know you did, and I really appreciate all of it, but it really makes it that much more apparent to me that you should probably be pursuing a relationship with one of those guys you were telling me about a couple of weeks ago.
It is always, always nerve-wracking to have a client be cross-examined, no matter the circumstances.
Especially when the questions turned to that tape of Shayna Hubers in the police interrogation room and her disturbing attempt at humor over the bullet she fired into Ryan's face.
And I will never forget when she said that she gave him the nose job that he always wanted.
The other day, one of our last conversations we had that was good was that he wants my best friend to get up to do it for me and wants to get a nose job. He's quite kind of person, and I shot him right here. I gave him his nose job. He wanted it.
Nothing with Shane surprises me. Any chance to be heard?
I think there are true people that are sociopaths, that have no concern, no empathy for anyone else. And that's what I thought I was looking at.
The prosecution wanted to show she was coherent throughout, hardly crazed or out of her mind.
I don't think that what I did was necessarily completely wrong, you know?
I'm not saying that my statements were coherent. I'm saying my mindset wasn't completely coherent.
You gotta go up.
But there were some things throughout the course of your statement that were consistent.
Okay.
And seeing him twitch and it being painful for you was one of those things that was consistent and said by you over and over again.
I said that.
And because you didn't want to watch him die, you shot him more times, in your words, to the point where you knew he was dead.
I said those things.
What the fuck?
Is that similar? To what people do when they see an injured animal?
Objection, sustained.
Withdraw your honor.
Please
I have nothing
disregard
further.
that question.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
She treated him no better than roadkill. Shot him and put him out of his misery.
Step up, dummies! You're watching like, oh my god. The frick?
All rise and circle.
That's a shot. No, give me back, 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 give me back.
We will begin closing arguments, and by rule, the defendant goes first.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Amen.
we have told you the truth about Shane. Good, bad, embarrassing, humiliating.
Certainly, we wanted him to go into the jury room thinking that Shayna Hubers acted that night under extreme emotional disturbance, which was a reasonable cause.
Degrading her own self-worth. I can't love you. No one can love you. You can't orgasm because you were touched as a child, and no one will ever love you. At that time, physical, verbal assault.
Good block.
And it's against that backdrop that they end up on opposite sides of this table with a gun on the table.
Shayna's condition and Poston's actions combined to create that extreme emotional disturbance, and thus she was not guilty of murder. Ms. McGrath?
Yes, Your Honor. Hell hath no fury like a woman's sword. He's burning in hell, and it feels good. These are her words, not ours. Shayna Hubers has proven herself over and over and over and over again to not be trustworthy with her actions or her words. She will lie to get what she wants. Just like what she said before, I'll go to the ends of the earth to accomplish my goal. She shot him in the head. What kind of a person is it that raises the gun again and aims and fires again? And if celebrating Brian's death isn't enough to show you that she danced, that she came from evil or malicious purposes, how about this? I did it. I did it. I don't know what could sound more malicious than that. The celebration of taking another person's life.
My job was to make sure that the jury knew that once we cleared out all the lots, and once we focused on Shayna's words, the crime scene, and the history in this relationship, that they would see that there was no other choice but murder.
The trial had lasted 10 days, but the jury took only 5 hours to return a verdict.
Probably would have felt better if they were out longer.
We were beyond nervous, sick to our stomachs. Anything other than a murder conviction would have been a devastating defeat.
All rise for the jury.
Is what you have the jury's verdict in your hand?
Yes.
And would you give that to the bailiff, please? Thank you.
Man.
Okay, verdict form.
Stop my freaking show.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Shayna guilty of murder under instruction number 5, signed by the third person. But the real drama was yet to come.
When the murder conviction came back, that was great and all, but that was just the first hurdle. Now it was time for sentencing.
In Kentucky, when an individual is found guilty of murder, they can be sentenced to 20 to 50 years or life imprisonment. That was the range that the jury was given.
And prosecutors felt anything less than the 40 years she had received in the first trial would be a defeat.
We all agreed life was the goal this time. Not a murder conviction, not 40 years. It was life this time.
And prosecutors called Ryan Poston's family, his sister and parents, to make sure the jurors understood the grief and emotion his family still felt, even years after he was murdered.
Are you related to Ryan?
Ryan's my brother.
Explain to the jury what you have with you.
Because I'm 30 years old, I don't need to bring a teddy bear up with me. This teddy bear was made by my sister. This is Ryan's shirt. That's it. That's all I have. I'm voicemail.
It's daunting to know that I've got another 30 or 40 years on this earth, God willing. I'll have another 35 or 40 Christmases without my son. I had my grandchildren stolen from me. I will never hold my grandchildren. She has decimated my life and many other lives. Ryan had a heart of gold. His goodness literally got him killed. His kindness got him killed.
Understandable emotions from both sides for the Poston family and for her and her mother. In particular, I still remember her mother just in agony on the stand, pleading for her daughter, as any parent would. Ms. Hubers.
Make it count, make it count.
Shayna, as I said, is my only child. My child's
Shayna, like I said, is my only child.
Has also been taken. Her family
Do
also
you love T? Do you love me?
I'm not lessening
Butter.
or taken away from or trying to say that I don't understand the grief of this family, because I do. Both beautiful young people, both talented.
Thank you.
Uh-oh, it's too small. Good one, Hamby.
Again, it only took the jury a few hours to reach a decision.
And do you have the verdict form? Would you please give it to the bailiff? Thank you. We, the jury, fix the defendant, Shauna Huber's punishment for the offense of murder at life imprisonment. Signed by the foreperson,
that was what this was all about. That simple word. Like, when the jury came back and they read the recommended sentence of life, simple word, was a moment that I don't think many people in this courtroom will forget. There were tears, there were hugs, and there was gratitude.
So was there justice?
How do you get justice for a life that was taken far too early?
There is no satisfaction. You think there's some kind of relief for it, there's no relief. This is going to sound harsh. But I hope her day today is worse than it was yesterday, and I hope tomorrow is worse than it is today. She took a friend of mine for no reason at all. There'd be no penalty severe enough for there to be justice.
Y'all gonna really call that book? Man, hold up, son. Oh, God, B. I'm the one that blocked that joint. I ain't caused the foul. I came up.
And the tragic update out of Escambia County, Florida tonight. The body of
Taylor Wright is a private investigator.
Has been found, saying that body they found around noon today is believed to be that of Taylor Wright.
I dare to come down here and try to
Wright's friend, Ashley MacArthur, was second-degree murder.
Your wife been arrested, charged for murder, nigga. Your wife going to jail.
She's being arrested. This evening is charged with murder.
What?
Oh, you gotta be joking.
She's accused of murdering Pensacola private investigator
Come on, T,
Taylor Wright.
We barely won, but we won.
They had a young woman, Taylor Wright, that was murdered. There was no question about that. She was shot in the back of the head and killed.
Got me a triple double still. Asia Wilson, 33 points. Oh, we out there hooping and stuff. I don't like the fact that she got more boards that game. That's usually me, the board grabber.
She told me they'll never. She's gone.
There will be no physical evidence showing me that Ashley MacArthur had anything to do with the death of Taylor Wright.
As to the charge in count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant, Ashley MacArthur,
This is what he's going to do. I mean, you have a situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
It's not the first place to put a body. No, sir. The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and the crime the defendant.
It's a beautiful place. We're a place where people vacation.
So we have the Pensacola Naval Air Station.
Love our Blue Angels. World famous for those. It's a great town, a great place to raise your family.
Like all cities, we do have murders, but anytime a murder comes up of this nature, it certainly draws attention.
First name is Taylor. Last name is Wright. W-R-I-G-H-T.
Taylor Wright was 33 years old when her body was found, more than a month after she had been first reported missing.
Taylor should have called me. Taylor would have called me, and she didn't.
She was a former police officer from South Carolina turned private investigator. The mother of an 8-year-old son, Taylor moved to Pensacola after a contentious divorce and fell in love with a woman.
We met on an online dating app. We were in a relationship for a short period of time, but enough time to have sincere feelings and to say that I love this person. And she's told me she loved me back.
Cassandra Waller is a public school administrator who soon invited Taylor to move in with her.
She was kind. She was outgoing. She would give you the shirt off of her back. She was full of life. She was full of energy. She had all kinds of hope. Had great, big, giant ideas.
But there were issues in Taylor Wright's life. Her new girlfriend suspected she was using drugs and had caught Taylor cheating on her with another woman. And Taylor and her ex-husband, Jeff Wright, were still fighting over their son and their money.
I just know that Taylor didn't feel like it was equal.
In violation of the court orders, Taylor had withdrawn $100,000 from a joint account with her ex-husband and asked another of her new Florida friends, Ashley MacArthur, to help her hide the money by putting it in Ashley's bank account. But now the divorce judge had ordered Taylor to show up with the money or face jail.
So the night before Taylor went missing, we went out to eat, and Taylor was just really stressed out. She was talking about how Ashley was holding on to this money, that Taylor needed to get it back, and she felt awkward about it. She felt like something wasn't right.
The next day, Taylor and Ashley were sent to go to a bank in Pensacola to pick up the money Ashley had been holding for her.
And we gave each other a hug and a kiss. And at that time, I'm walking out my driveway. Ashley pulls up. I say, "Hey, Ash." And she was like, "Hey, Cassandra." And I said, "You guys have a good day." I got in my car and I drove away. That was the last time I ever saw Taylor.
A few hours later, Ashley called Cassandra to say that instead of going to the bank, she and Taylor had driven out of town to go horseback riding on a farm in East Milton, owned by Ashley's family.
I was like, "Weren't you guys supposed to go there?" She goes, "Yeah, Taylor's really stressed out with the divorce stuff. And she's just been really emotional today." These are the things that she's telling me. Tell her everything's fine. Like, we'll get through this.
Later that night, she got this text message from Taylor's phone.
Saying, I'm sorry, like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I started getting angry and upset. Because here we were in a relationship. I'm thinking Taylor's telling me that she needs time to herself, and she's not including her partner, and that hurt my feelings.
And as the days and nights went by, Cassandra Waller was both worried something had happened and then angry Taylor might have left her for someone else.
I sent her texts, I tried calling her, nothing. No responses, nothing.
But after more than a week, what had begun as a missing persons case for police soon took on an ominous cast.
Everyone is initially a suspect. And so certainly Taylor's ex-husband was certainly on everyone's radar, and Cassandra, Taylor's girlfriend at the time.
But very early on, we treated it as if it were a homicide.
Being handled by two detectives, Chad Wilhelm and Richard Gigliotti, who had just been promoted to detective.
The first thing we did with this case was contacted Cassandra Waller.
There was a time they came to my house, and at one point, Detective Gigliotti crawled under my house. So I'm sitting on the front porch with Detective Wilhelm bawling my eyes out because this is embarrassing. Why am I being looked at?
We're trying to find out why your girlfriend's disappeared.
And here I am in this room that they would use to interrogate people, and it's padded walls. It's a place you don't want to be.
I can't help but be scared that I'm going to get in trouble for something that I did when I was really scared.
She's in her inner circle. She's her girlfriend, so she needs to be pressured as well during the interview to gauge her reaction, see how honest she's being with us. Those questions do got to be asked. If you knew she was going would you tell us?
But that's what we were.
If she was dead right now, you knew, would you tell us?
I don't know.
Did you hold her?
They asked me if I killed Taylor. And I lost it.
When Ashley MacArthur MacArthur was brought in for questioning as the last person known to have seen Taylor Wright alive. She said she doubted any harm had come to Taylor Wright, offering suggestions about her whereabouts.
She wanted to appear as though she was cooperative, right? She didn't want to deny anything that we asked. She wanted to seem cooperative.
Telling the detectives Taylor might just be off on a drug binge.
The only thing I worry about is with the drug situation. Like, I wouldn't even, if I didn't know about the drug situation, I wouldn't be worried about her. I would say Taylor's doing what Taylor does. But then that lifestyle becomes a different group of people. Which is what I worry about with her.
And we don't know that she ever had intentions on leaving. Maybe she wanted to have fun and then someone found her